Part 20. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 192. But as time went by, the expectant eyes of several female disciples began to become a little strange. They clearly saw that the pot was actually emitting a strange green liquid. Accompanied by strange bubbles, the color made people feel a chill in their hearts. What is the Empress doing? Shouldn't it be a love bento? I don't know, but why do I feel that the Empress is refining poison? All of them were dumbfounded. Boom. At this time, a green flame suddenly burned on the pot. Under the burning flame, even the silver pot lid was dyed into a terrible dark green. Success. First put the vegetables, then pour the juice. Chu Qingyu excitedly poured the vegetables and juice into the box of the love bento. Even drew a heart shape exactly the same. However, the juice that formed the heart shape was pure dark green. And the strange and weird liquid kept surging, combined with other dishes, it seemed to form a devil's face. That dark green scary face was squirming, as if whispering, "Eat me, eat me. As long as you eat me, you can immediately transcend your past life, ha ha ha." In an instant, the faces of several female disciples turned pale. What on earth did the Empress do? Could it be that she summoned a demon? How is it? My cooking skills are pretty good, right? Try it and make your comments. If the comments satisfy me, I can consider letting you off the hook. A drop of dark green soup splashed on Chu Qingyu's snow-white face, and she smiled with satisfaction at her masterpiece. It was the first time that the female disciples saw the Empress smile. But at this moment, they had no time to care about the Empress's beautiful smile, and even felt that the smile was extremely cold and terrifying. This is not a love lunchbox, it's clearly a highly toxic poison. Whoever eats this will not last for a second and will die. Eat it, I'm waiting for your comments. But Chu Qingyu has already brought the devil-like love lunchbox to the few people. The cold breath seemed to carry a hint of the majesty of the emperor that no one dared to disobey. But no matter how much they dared not disobey the orders of the Empress, compared to eating the lunchbox, which was equivalent to dying on the spot, no one was willing to joke with their lives. "Empress, can we not eat it?" Xilan cried and trembled with fear. "Why? Can't you even do the most basic tasting and evaluation?" Chu Qingyu's eyes were slightly fixed. Xilan was frightened and trembled slightly, and her brain was working as hard as it could. Finally, she had an idea and finally came up with an excuse. "Empress, we wanted to make a love lunchbox for our lover without permission, which was wrong. Now that you made the lunchbox yourself, how can we sinners have the face to eat it? Please let others try this lunchbox." "Is that so?" Chu Qingyu paused for a moment, and nodded with some regret. "Okay, in that case, forget it." Seeing that several female disciples seemed to be in poor condition, Chu Qingyu changed her target. "This is the lunchbox that this emperor tried to make by herself. Does anyone want to try it?" Chu Qingyu walked out of the back kitchen, and there were dozens of disciples waiting for lunch outside. In the past, as long as it was related to Chu Qingyu, even if it was just a brush that Chu Qingyu touched, or even a stone brick that she stepped on, it was enough to cause an uproar among the disciples of Tianyun Hall. But at this moment, holding this box of lunch boxes, the dozens of disciples were frightened and turned pale, and retreated again and again. "Empress, are you sure this is food for humans?" "Empress, although I have developed a lover without telling you, I am not guilty of death." The disciples were frightened. Seeing the Empress who used to be extremely respectful and yearning, and regarded as the supreme being. But in the end, they were completely frightened and lost their minds, and actually ran away directly. Hey, strange, why do the disciples always feel something is wrong today? Chu Qingyu was a little confused, and didn't understand what the scene in front of her was. Carrying a box of delicious lunch box, There was no one left around. Haha, Nai-chan, you can't suppress my limelight this time. The same goes for others. Today, I must take back the dignity I lost in the past. Just then, in the distant sky, Duanmu Yang flew towards Tianyun Palace on an object. Under his crotch was the holy dragon horse. The holy dragon horse is a strange species that has evolved through artificial breeding. Although it is still a horse in essence, it can fly in the air. The most important thing is that this holy dragon horse looks very similar to a dragon. Except for the lack of the dazzling golden scales, with a dragon tail, it looks exactly like a dragon in the blink of an eye. In order to buy this holy dragon horse, Duanmu Yang paid a huge price. But he was satisfied and didn't feel sorry at all. After all, with this holy dragon horse. For those who don't understand, it's just like riding a dragon. Riding a dragon in front of everyone, such a majestic feeling, just thinking about it makes Duanmu Yang feel excited. With this holy dragon horse, from now on, his momentum will never be ruthlessly suppressed by Nai-chan again. Ha ha ha, Nai-chan, wait and see how I suppress your momentum bit by bit. Duanmu Yang laughed and landed on the holy dragon horse. Looking forward, he saw Empress Qingyu right in front of him. Empress. Duanmu Yang quickly restrained his frivolous feeling just now, and knelt on one knee solemnly and respectfully. But he soon realized that the Empress didn't pay any attention to him at all. Instead, her eyes were completely on the holy dragon horse beside her. Duanmu Yang was a little stunned. Empress, do you want? Can I borrow this holy dragon horse? Chu Qingyu's inviolable voice came, and Duanmu Yang was about to agree, but suddenly noticed the lunchbox in the Empress's hand. Empress, you don't want to give this to him. Duanmu Yang was completely panicked. Empress, I spent all my family's money to buy this, you can't poison it. What do you mean by poison? I just wanted to taste this lunchbox. Chu Qingyu didn't stop, grabbed the head of the holy dragon horse, and forced a bite of the lunchbox in. Coo, coo. After eating the lunchbox, the holy dragon horse swallowed it painfully, and suddenly wailed twice. It actually staggered and fell down. Huh? Is this horse exhausted? Chu Qingyu was a little confused, but the holy dragon horse was spitting green foam from its mouth and had completely stopped moving. It was so hard to find a suitable object, but the horse couldn't eat anything. It seems that today's love lunchbox is not going well. Sighing helplessly, Chu Qingyu shook her head and turned away. Horse, my horse. Behind him, Duanmu Yang rushed forward and found that the body of the holy dragon horse had already turned cold. He had spent all his family's money to buy the holy dragon horse, but he hadn't even ridden it for an hour. Duanmu Yang was completely dumbfounded. The crying continued. My horse. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 193. My horse is dead. Sad cries echoed near Tianyun Palace. Chu Qingyu showed a little doubt. Is my cooking not delicious enough? Anyway, a heart is not a Valentine's Day gift, but it's nothing. Only. Recalling that Valentine's Day gift, Chu Qingyu suddenly felt her cheeks flushing involuntarily. As expected, I'd better practice making bento first, otherwise I won't be able to calm down at all. A sacred place of flowers. For some reason, Nai-chan suddenly felt a chill coming from his back. Hey, weird, why do you feel so cold? Nai-chan looked around, feeling a little worried. At that moment, the terrifying scene of Chu Qingyu cooking suddenly and inexplicably came to mind. The Empress is good at everything and has talent in everything she does, but she is really bad at cooking. Could it be that the Empress is planning to cook herself again? Suddenly, Nai-chan took a breath of cold air. I can only pray in my heart that Valentine's Day is Valentine's Day, and my wife must not do anything weird again. Seeing that Valentine's Day was approaching, Nai Chen also planned to leave the Holy Land of Flowers to take a look in advance at the 9 dragon surrounding ceremony that Aolan talked about. But the next morning, the flower saint suddenly came to the door. There was a small golden flower on her temples, with a somewhat holy but charming feeling as always. She said softly, "Nai Chen, the fountain of music in the Holy Land has just opened recently. Are you interested in giving it a try?" Fountain of music. Nai Chen had never heard of this thing. This fountain of music in the Holy Land was once a gift from an immortal. As long as you can gain recognition for your music, you may be able to obtain immortal inheritance. However, it is naturally not that easy to be recognized. The flower saint explained. "Oh, that sounds good. But why would the saint suddenly want to ask me for help?" Nai Chen seemed a little interested. "Ahem, it's because the musical level you performed at the feast last time was extremely high. Recently, the fountain of music suddenly felt loose, so I decided to give it a try with you. And, I happen to have a perfectly suitable instrument here." As she spoke, the flower saint took out an emerald green bamboo flute from her sleeve, smiled slightly and said, "If you show your strength with this flute, you might even get a chance to try it." This flute. After taking the bamboo flute, Nai Chen clearly felt that there was a faint fragrance on the flute. Even the entire flute seemed to be completely dyed by this fragrance, exuding a refreshing fragrance all the time. The aroma was indeed very good, but Nai Chen was thinking about something else. Looking at the slightly evasive gaze of the Blossom Saint and the lightly covered lips, Nai Chen suddenly became suspicious. "Holy girl, this flute shouldn't be yours." How is it possible?" The flower saint immediately trembled like a frightened little rabbit. "You still say no?" Nai Chen carefully looked at the mouthpiece of the flute and suddenly smiled subtly. "The smell of this mouthpiece is exactly the same as the one on you, Saint. Not only does it belong to you, Saint, I'm afraid you still use it to blow it often." A blush instantly appeared on the cheeks of the Blossom Saint. He opened his mouth and thought for a long time but couldn't think of any words to refute. Hateful. Showing a hint of unwillingness, the flower saint had no choice but to tilt her head and reluctantly admit it. "Tell me, why does the saint specifically want me to use this flute to challenge the fountain of music?" Nai Chen played with the bamboo flute in his hand, and the cool breath came, making him feel a little surprised. Even these pure auras are enough to show that the grade of the bamboo flute is absolutely extraordinary. "Tch, just say it." The flower saint looked at Nai Chen resentfully and said, "The fountain of rhythm is a precious inheritance in the Holy Land. It is said to have the effect of replenishing all things. Any damaged items will most likely be repaired after being washed by the fountain of music. However, in order to trigger the complementary ability of the fountain of music, one needs to gain recognition first." Nai Chen asked, "So the saint wants me to repair this bamboo flute?" "Yes, this bamboo flute was originally a heaven-level magic weapon. It's a pity that the Tian-level broken items have never been repaired." The flower saint gave a faint sigh. "It's actually a heavenly level." Nai Chen was also slightly shocked. After all, heavenly magic weapons are extremely rare and difficult to obtain even by powerful emperors. "In terms of music, I still have some confidence, so I can give it a try. But..." Nai Chen smiled subtly and said, "If the heavenly magic weapon can be repaired, the saint should pay a price." "Price? What price? Is it possible?" The Holy Maiden of Flowers put her hands on her chest in surprise at first, and then showed a charming smile. "Is it possible that you want me?" "No, I just want to borrow the flute for a while." Nai Chen's decisive voice came. "Tch, I knew it." The Blossom Saint girl raised her head in dissatisfaction, but still seemed a little confused. "But, what do you want to do with the flute?" Nai Chen didn't pay attention and blurted out, "It's nothing, it just so happens that the Empress wants to learn to play the flute with me overnight." I plan to teach her for one night when I get back. The atmosphere was silent in an instant. A blush reached the roots of the Saint of Flowers' ears. She took a trembling step back and almost dropped the teacup behind her to the ground. You. I didn't expect that you and King Yu had reached this point, and, you said such things without caring. Nai Chen. After a moment of stunned silence, he finally reacted. No, this flute is not that flute. And why don't you emperors learn well all day long? You all understand girls in seconds. I don't believe it. The Saint of Flowers bit her lips lightly, her eyes full of doubt. I don't believe you. Nai Chen was so angry that he didn't know how to laugh or cry, and he didn't know how to explain it. Anyway, I have borrowed this flute. Don't worry, leave the repair to me. Nai Chen walked out of the house and came to the spring of music. The clear spring water converged towards the center, rolling and emitting a clear sound. Gathering in front of this clear spring water, there were many female disciples from the Holy Land of Flowers. The atmosphere seemed very warm, and many people rushed forward to challenge. Although they could not be recognized, they were happy to do it. In the sound of music, many female disciples moved gracefully, making the scene around the spiritual spring very pleasing to the eye. By the way, there is such a good flute. Can you, Saint, also play the flute? Nai Chen suddenly looked at the Saint of Flowers. I can't. No, I can, but this flute, not that flute. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 194. Many female disciples have gathered near the spiritual spring, but even though the music is played continuously, no one can get recognition. Many female disciples know in their hearts how difficult it is to get recognition from the spiritual spring. After all, even until now, only the saint's sister Yao Menjiun has been recognized once. Moreover, Miss Menjiun is still in seclusion to repair her irreparable state of mind. But even so, there is still an endless stream of people challenging her. That senior sister Mu. A beautiful figure appeared in front of the spiritual spring, quickly attracting the attention of many female disciples. She sat down with her hand on the pipa. This figure is the chief disciple Mu Kaiyuning. I didn't expect that senior sister Mu is here too. The saint said that the spiritual spring has started to show signs of loosening recently. It seems that senior sister Mu also wants to seize this opportunity. That's right, senior sister Mu's pipa sound is superb, but she has never challenged the spiritual spring. I heard that she did it to conserve her energy and wait for the opportunity to win with one blow. So, senior sister Mu is very likely to succeed. For a moment, many people were excited, and they looked at Mu Qiuning expectantly. The spiritual spring surged, and waves of water fell, emitting a cool breath. At this moment, Mu Qiuning stroked the pipa with her hands, and her dress danced with the wind. Her temperament alone made people marvel. After a long pause, Mu Qiuning finally stroked the pipa strings and the sound slowly sounded. Lightly pluck, slowly twist, wipe and pick, first for Nichang and then Liu Yao. Like silver beads falling, clear springs ringing, the wonderful melody in it makes people marvel. The surging spring water was getting higher and higher, and the scattered spring water even seemed to dance gently with the sound of the pipa. A strange light flashed faintly, and all the disciples stared at the spiritual spring with surprise. But as the light gradually changed, it stopped at the last moment. Mu Kaiyuning's pipa sound continued, but the strange trembling of the spring water had stopped. Obviously, she failed. Although she was one step away, she still failed to gain the recognition of the spring of music. Alas, it was just a little short, what a pity. Yes, the spiritual spring had reacted just now. The female disciples watching sighed and looked around. However, even senior sister Mu Qiuning failed. Who else can pass? It seems that there is no one left. Except for senior sister Mu Qiuning, all the sisters who are good at music have tried it. What a pity, it's so hard to make the spiritual spring abnormal, but this opportunity is still missed. The sighs rose and fell, and no one could think of another candidate who could be recognized by the spiritual spring. But at this moment, someone suddenly noticed that Nai Chen and the Saint of Flowers were walking side by side in the distance. Why are the Saint and Senior Brother Nai here? More importantly, why is Senior Brother Nai holding the Saint's bamboo flute in his hand? Under the confused eyes of many female disciples, Nai Chen came to the spiritual spring with a bamboo flute in his hand. Could it be that Senior Brother Nai also wants to try? Seeing the scene in front of them, all the disciples were stunned. After all, there are rumors about Nai Chen, all of which are about how powerful his strength and qualifications are. But Senior Brother Nai is also proficient in music, which is too outrageous. Senior Brother Nai, the music spring is more dangerous than it looks on the surface, please be careful. Mu Qiuning stood up a little weakly, with a trace of blood flowing from the corner of her mouth, obviously being attacked by the spiritual spring. Don't worry, there's nothing wrong. Nai Chen smiled slightly. The sun shone down, and the spiritual spring rang. Combined with the unique temperament exuded by the Xiangu saint body, this scene stunned many female disciples. No wonder so many people secretly sent love letters to Senior Brother Nai. Who can stand it? System, upgrade the music to the great perfection. Ding, the system is testing. It takes skill points *20 to adjust the music to the great perfection. 20 skill points were indeed considered a lot in the past, but over such a long time, Nai Chen has accumulated nearly 100 skill points. With a lot of money, there is no need to worry. Congratulations to the host, the music has been upgraded to the state of great perfection. As the system sound fell, Nai Chen seemed to feel the looming notes floating around him. The previously mysterious and elusive notes seemed to become extremely simple at this moment. Even the flute that had never been touched before became extremely skilled in Nai Chen's hands. At this moment, the spiritual spring was surging calmly, and it seemed that Nai Chen was not taken seriously. But Nai Chen did not care, and had already gently dripped the mouthpiece of the bamboo flute on his mouth. That's the bamboo flute of the saint. Mouth to mouth, Senior Brother Nai is so bold. Instantly, the faces of the female disciples watching were slightly red. It started. Just when they focused all their attention on the bamboo flute, Nai Chen had already played the flute. At first, there seemed to be nothing unusual, but as the seemingly ordinary notes were blown out, the bamboo flute, which had little reaction and was dull in color, was flowing with emerald green brilliance. The light became more and more dazzling, and exuded an extremely mysterious aura. What happened? Saint Fanhua also showed a trace of surprise. Although the bamboo flute is a heavenly grade magic weapon, it is seriously damaged. Even if she used it herself, she could not trigger such a scene. What did Nai Chen do? Before the Saint of Flowers could figure out the situation, the melody that originally sounded ordinary suddenly changed. Like the sound of flowing water in the mountains and the gurgling of springs, it seemed to hide countless wonderful scenes. Not only that, the melody played by the bamboo flute became completely different from before. Like a flawless fairy music, every note in it makes people look up to it and marvel at it. Its beautiful music keeps lingering in everyone's ears, and it is beautiful enough to make people marvel. It's so beautiful. Such a flawless melody even made the Saint of Flowers a little distracted. Soon, she showed a trace of unimaginable surprise. Because this melody is not only extremely beautiful, but the music theory in it is even more mysterious and infinite, like the sound of the great way of the vast universe. Being able to evolve the principle of the great way from the melody, Nai Chen's melody and level may have reached the pinnacle. Just when everyone was immersed in the beautiful sound of the flute, the spiritual spring finally surged. The light flowed, and the spiritual spring bloomed with a brighter light, which was even more dazzling than when Mu Qiuning played the pipa just now. At the same time, Nai Chen's fingers moved slightly, and the performance of the flute reached its climax. It was as if the Milky Way fell from the sky, when the flute sound reached its peak. Finally, the spiritual spring rushed up to the sky, and a mysterious green light was reflected in the spring water. Nai Chen's flute music easily won the recognition of the spring of music. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 195. The Road to Simplicity. When all things evolve to the extreme, they may be close to the origin of the Great Road. It is said that in ancient times, there was a cook who was good at cutting cattle. When he had a complete understanding of the structure of the cow's body and mastered the sword technique to the extreme, he actually caused strange phenomena in the world with his ultimate understanding. Not only that, there are also mortals who use words to realize the Tao, and music to realize the Tao. There are even Misofaries who use beauty to realize the Tao and become immortals. And the scene before my eyes. Nai Chen's understanding of music has evolved to the extreme, so much so that it has led to the Great Road, exuding such a mysterious and infinite aura. This kind of rhythm can really be said to have reached perfection. Even the Blossom Saint Maiden didn't expect that Nai Chen's accomplishments in playing the flute would be so terrifying. A ray of emerald green light burst out from the spiritual spring, and Nai Chen's song was completely recognized. Emerald green light floated out and slowly merged into the bamboo flute. Immediately afterwards, a violent hurricane swept over the bamboo flute. At this moment, spiritual energy from all directions gathered together. The cyan light is getting brighter and brighter, and the aura coming from the spiritual spring is constantly repairing and making up for the defects of the bamboo flute. Boom! As the brokenness was filled, a gust of cold wind burst out. The aura exuded by the bamboo flute suddenly changed. That is the pressure that truly comes from the heavenly magic weapon. In an instant, the clear blue sky was filled with roaring sounds. White clouds fluttered and a strong wind struck. Thousands of flowers in the holy land of flowers swayed with the wind, and the emerald green light almost filled the four directions of the spiritual spring, and turned into waves of aftermath that spread in all directions. This is a sign of the birth of a heaven-level magic weapon, which is enough to cause strange phenomena in heaven and earth. What happened? Why did the saint's bamboo stick in Brother Nai's hand suddenly start to change? At this moment, not only the holy land of flowers, but also all the sects from all directions were shocked. The birth of a heaven-level magic weapon? That is, in the direction of the holy land of flowers. There is another heaven-level magic weapon in the holy land of flowers. This terrifying vision, I'm afraid this magic weapon is enough to rank in the middle level of the heavenly level. I heard that there is a broken bamboo flute in the holy land of flowers. Could it be that someone repaired it? But that was a remnant of the heavenly level. Now that there are no 8th level weapon refiners in the world, how could anyone possibly do it? Especially the several small weapon refining sects surrounding the Blossom Holy Land. They are proficient in weapon refining and also know how difficult it is to repair a magic weapon. The higher the grade of the magic weapon, the more difficult it is to repair it. Even today's top weapon refiners have absolutely no chance of repairing any heavenly magic weapon. What happened in the Holy Land of Flowers? The head of the Minky sect looked at this strange scene in shock, his old beard swaying in the wind. Oh my God! He spent his whole life pursuing the art of refining weapons, but when he looked at the scene in front of him, he suddenly felt that he was so insignificant. My pursuit in this life also seems ridiculous. Accompanied by the ups and downs of the heaven and earth, finally, countless flowing lights suddenly converged towards the center. The emerald green light was so strong that it was completely integrated into the bamboo flute. The afterglow of the hurricane drifted in all directions. Although the light was not as shining as before, it was still extremely bright. Especially the bamboo flute, which was originally a little dull, is now emerald green and crystal clear, like a newborn bamboo. The majestic spiritual energy and strange atmosphere faintly exuding from it make people involuntarily awe. Although it is restrained, the aura hidden in the bamboo flute is still majestic, making people feel awe. It seems that there are endless mysterious notes contained in it, which can turn into surging river water at any time. Is this the aura of a heaven-level magic weapon? It's simply more terrifying than imagined. The appearance of the bamboo flute has also changed. You see, the opening of the flute has turned into emerald green bamboo joints. Completely shocked by the scene in front of them, the female disciples who were watching all this were completely stunned. They never thought that they would actually have the opportunity to witness this scene. When did you master the music to this extent? The beautiful eyes of the Blossom Saint Maiden also sparkled with curiosity. The song played by Nai Chen has reached the pinnacle level. But before this, why had no one ever said that he knew music to such an extent? After all, I have to teach my wife how to play the flute. Isn't it normal to have more control over it? Nai Chen smiled and said. But Saint, as promised, I will lend you this bamboo flute for a month. I'll return it to you when I'm done with it. With that said, Nai Chen took the bamboo flute into his arms. It doesn't matter if I borrow it from you, but you must not do anything weird with it. The Flower Saint Maiden said quietly. Seeing that Nai Chen always said such rude things, she felt more and more that something was not right between Nai Chen and the Empress. Don't worry, what other weird things can a flute be used for? Nai Chen said helplessly. He whistled in the distance, and suddenly, a majestic shadow swept across the horizon, and Aolan landed next to Nai Chen. Are you leaving now? There are still a few days left until Valentine's Day. The Flower Saint gave a slight cough and tried to persuade her to stay. I have to prepare a gift, so it's just a good time to go. Even if I'm here in the Holy Land, don't you plan to stay a little longer? Maybe, I can come to your room to stay with you at night. The Flower Saint showed a charming smile and stared at Nai Chen affectionately. I would also like to sleep in the same room as the saint, but I am relatively insecure and may need an extra rope when sleeping. Nai Chen seemed not to care and pulled out an immortal rope. Ahem, you'd better leave quickly and come back to see the saint when the rope is gone. The delicate body of the Blossom Saint Maiden trembled, and she once again recalled the fear of being dominated by the fairy rope. Okay, then goodbye saint. Nai Chen smiled slightly and sat on Aoian's dragon body. Under the gaze of the Blossom Saint and countless female disciples in the Holy Land, she rose into the sky on a dragon. The golden dragon scales reflected dazzling light in the sun, and the dragon body covered with dragon scales looked extremely majestic. Especially Nai Chen sitting on it attracted the attention of many female disciples. Wow, senior brother Nai is so handsome. Senior brother Nai is leaving now. I originally thought that I could spend Valentine's Day with senior brother Nai. My love letter to senior brother Nai hasn't been opened yet. Although there is little hope, I still want to give it a try. Waves of lamentations were heard, and the female disciples all looked at Nai Chen's disappearing figure with regret. However, they didn't notice it at all. They stared at the sky with clear eyes, and the Flower Saintess curled her lips slightly. But soon, his eyes softened. Humph, you idiot, you are busy preparing Valentine's Day gifts. Even if we stay in the Holy Land for a few more days? Snort. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 196. West Sea Dragon Palace. Nowadays, the affairs of the Dragon Palace are in charge of the affairs of the Dragon Palace, Laolong Aana, who has always supported Aolan. Seeing Aolan return, the old dragon Aona immediately led his dragon forward to greet him. Humph, how are you? It's awesome, do you feel the pressure of me as the Dragon King? Feeling the dragons standing solemnly on both sides and the respectful gazes, Aolan suddenly felt a little proud and jumped up and down to show off in front of Nai Chen. Be honest, at least you have the majesty of the Dragon King. Nai Chen was so angry that he smiled and hit Aolan on the head. Ouch, it hurts, but it seems to make sense. Covering his head, Aolan had no choice but to calm down temporarily, coughed slightly, and pretended to be a bit more majestic than the Dragon King. After all, as the Dragon King in the Dragon Palace, I still have to have some airs. Aona, help me find 7 trustworthy dragons with pure blood. Aolan ordered to retreat from other dragon clans. Yes. Aona was confused, but still found 7 dragons according to Aoian's request. But after finding the other 7 dragons, he couldn't hide his confusion. Why did the Dragon King suddenly look for these dragons? Aolan said, I'm going to hold the Kowloon ceremony. As Aoian's voice fell, Aona was instantly shocked. What a grand gift the Kowloon gift is. The Dragon Clan has strong luck and the 9 dragons gift is enough to bring about changes in the world and a sacred scene. It is said that in ancient times, only the saints of the immortal realm and their Taoist companions were qualified to receive this 9 dragons gift. The 9 dragons ceremony is an unheralded secret of the Dragon Palace, and few people know about it. Over the years, it has never been held for any human race. And now, who else in the world is qualified to receive this great gift from 9 dragons? Dragon King, I'm afraid this is inappropriate. Who do you want to hold this ceremony for? There should be no human race in the world who is qualified to bear it. Aona obviously didn't want to be so hasty, and he really couldn't imagine who it was. Isn't Empress Kingu not qualified enough? But Aoian's words made Aona's pupils shrink suddenly. Empress Kingu. Aona's mouth was half open, but no words came out. Empress Kingu was indeed one of the few human beings in his heart who was qualified to receive such a great gift. The problem is, but does the Empress have a Taoist companion? Of course, the 9 dragons gift is the gift that this Dragon King promised to give to the Empress on Valentine's Day. Aolan quickly nodded his head. What? The Empress actually has a Taoist companion. As soon as these words came out, not only Aona, but also the other 7 dragons were dumbfounded. The cold and arrogant Empress who wrote on the uselessness of Taoist couples and was extremely indifferent to Taoist couples actually had a Taoist partner. The shock at this moment cannot be described in words. Impossible. If the Empress had a Taoist companion, it would be enough to shock the world. How is it possible? Dragon King, may I ask this out of the blue, who is the Empress's Taoist companion? The shock in Aona's heart could no longer be concealed. Ahem, this. Aolan glanced at Nai Chen. After noticing Nai Chen's expression, he quickly turned his gaze away. Finally, he coughed lightly and said, just wait, you will see each other sooner or later on Valentine's Day anyway. Just remember not to tell anyone when the time comes. Otherwise, you will not be able to withstand the sword in the hands of the Empress. Old. I understand. Recalling Empress Kingu's emerald green bamboo sword that contained the infinite power of the Emperor, Aona suddenly felt a chill in his back and quickly bowed down, not daring to say anything. The other 7 dragons were also silent, but their thoughts were ups and downs in their hearts. Who is the Empress' Taoist companion? Who else in the world can be qualified to compare with the Empress? Several dragons racked their brains on this question, but they couldn't figure it out at all. It seems that the answer can only be revealed until Valentine's Day. His heart was boiling, but Aona couldn't help but smile awkwardly when he thought of the words Valentine's Day. I didn't expect that even though the Empress is cold and arrogant, she would still celebrate Valentine's Day. This is so interesting. Since she is the Empress, Lao Long is willing to go and hold the 9 dragons ceremony for the Empress. We are also willing to go. Aona, and the other 7 dragons slowly transformed into dragon shapes. The 9 dragons gift is extremely precious and is also the highest gift of the dragon clan. If it were any other person, even if the immortal realm came in person, they might not agree. But if it was Empress Kingu who saved the dragon palace twice and was admired by the world, several dragons were willing to sacrifice their bodies as gifts. Thank you all, then come with me. Nai Chen slightly cupped his hands and rode on Aolan, who had transformed into a dragon. The sound of 9 dragon roars echoed in the dragon palace, and its terrifying majesty made all the dragons feel in awe. Including Aolan, these 9 dragons all have the purest bloodline in the dragon palace, and their status is supreme. Looking at the 9 dragon bodies heading towards the sea, for a moment, the dragon palace was in a boil, not knowing what was going on. What happened? Why did the Dragon King lead several seniors to go to sea at the same time? I don't know, and 1, 2, 3, 4, just happened to be 9 dragons. Is it possible that something big is about to happen? Or is there some grand festival for the human race? A grand holiday? I heard that Valentine's Day seems to be coming soon in the human race recently. But Valentine's Day shouldn't be possible. Yeah, how could any strong human race celebrate Valentine's Day? Amidst the exclamation of the dragon palace, Nai Chen accompanied the 9 dragons and rode the wind. Because the blood of the 9 dragons is relatively pure, the scales are all pure gold. Unconsciously, the sky became dark, and dark clouds covered 1,000 miles. But occasionally, the light from the clouds shone on the bodies of several dragons, shining with extremely bright and sacred golden light. In the dark clouds, the dragon's body surged, and occasionally the dragon's roar echoed in the sky, as if a god had descended to the world, which was awe-inspiring. Seeing this sacred scene, the people on the earth were even as for the cultivators, all of them were overwhelmed with emotion and stood in awe. Nai Chen also felt a little strange. A mysterious and infinite breath was swirling around his body. The breath seemed to come from the way of heaven and was formed naturally. Even though the 9 dragons ceremony had not yet begun, the 9 dragons with pure blood surging in the clouds had already attracted a unique breath like heaven and earth. It seemed that what Aolan said was indeed true. The 9 dragons surrounding the ceremony was enough to attract the strange phenomena of heaven and earth, and the blessing of the great Dao. The flying speed was very fast, and it was seen that it was gradually approaching the mountains of Tianyuan Palace. There is only 1 day left until Valentine's Day. Nai Chen looked at the Tianyuan Palace in the distance with a smile on his face. But for some reason, Nai Chen clearly felt that there seemed to be something different in Tianyuan Palace today. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 197. Strange, what's going on? After arranging the other dragons on the nearby hillside, Nai Chen returned to Tianyuan Hall with only Aolan. But as expected, the scene in Tianyuan Hall today was a little strange. For Tianyuan Hall in the past, no matter spring, summer, autumn, or winter, or any festival, the scene on the top of the mountain would remain the same, without any changes at all. Especially facing Valentine's Day, a festival that was once even banned, it was impossible for Tianyuan Hall to have the slightest abnormality. But now, the situation is completely different. On the high mountain of Tianyuan Hall, many of the originally plain and elegant houses were decorated with some decorations, making the houses look as beautiful as a candy house. There were also hanging lanterns, and even before the night, the dazzling lights made it look like a candy house. The beautiful embellishments made the originally plain and cold Tianyuan Hall mountaintop have a lot of fireworks. But such a scene was obviously not in line with the ordinary Tianyuan Hall. Not only that, female disciples passed by from time to time. She was no longer wearing the green disciple robe, but a beautiful floral dress with charming decorations on her temples. Not to mention the sensitive Valentine's Day, even if it was a normal day, no one would dare to do this. What happened? Nai-chen was puzzled and stopped the female disciple passing by. Junior sister, do you know what happened in Tianyun Hall recently? Nai-chen pointed at the gorgeous decorations around and asked curiously. Brother Nai. Seeing Nai-chen, the female disciple's eyes flashed, and she seemed a little excited for a moment, and hurriedly answered attentively. Brother Nai may not know that the reason why someone dared to do this year is because the Empress suddenly allowed the disciples to celebrate Valentine's Day. Allowed to celebrate Valentine's Day? Nai-chen was slightly startled. The female disciple nodded. Well, the Empress suddenly issued an edict yesterday, and asking for mercy is also a kind of test. Although Tianyun Hall prohibits the matter of Taoist couples, it can try to relax the ban on Valentine's Day. The Empress said that she can give us a chance this year. Whether Tianyun Hall can continue to hold Valentine's Day in the future depends on how this Valentine's Day goes. The Empress actually said so. Nai-chen was slightly surprised. But it is true that the Empress has long wanted to make clear her views on the matter of Taoist couples. However, the influence of the theory of the uselessness of Taoist couples on countless cultivators in the world is so great that even if Chu Qingyu wants to make it clear now, there is no way. But unexpectedly, the Empress finally took this step. In fact, we are not sure whether what the Empress said is true, so we can only follow the Empress's edict. I just hope that this Valentine's Day can change the Empress's view a little bit. The female disciple seemed a little timid. After all, everyone knows the rules of Tianyun Hall on weekdays. Now the Empress suddenly said that Valentine's Day is allowed this year. Even if it was an edict issued by the Empress herself, they didn't dare to believe it. But this is indeed an opportunity, and it is an opportunity that cannot be missed. Not only because of myself. In the eyes of all the disciples of Tianyun Hall, the Empress is a perfect supreme existence. They can't bear to see the Empress Qingyu alone like this. If possible, no one doesn't want to change the Empress. I hope it's true. If something really happens, even if there is a slight possibility that it may affect the Empress's concept of Taoist companions, we are willing to be punished. The female disciple lowered her head slightly, but a hint of determination flashed in her eyes. Nai-chen couldn't help but smile. It seems that the disciples of Tianyun Hall love Chu Qingyu more than they imagined. Don't worry, leave this to me. How can I bear to see the great and perfect existence of the Empress alone? Nai-chen smiled and patted the female disciple's shoulder. Brother Nai. The female disciple's eyes seemed to flash with excitement and gratitude. Yes, senior brother Nai, you must prove to the Empress that love can also be extremely sweet and flawless. Why don't you have a sweet love with me and prove it to the Empress? Just then, an excited voice came from a distance. Then, a figure quickly approached. The light pink dress fluttered in the wind, and every step seemed extremely excited. Senior brother Nai, Ling-er is here again. Tomorrow is Valentine's Day. Doesn't senior brother Nai-chen plan to have a sweet love with Ling-er? In this way, senior brother Nai will not have to worry about being abused by others. The sweet love with Ling-er may even infect the Empress. If Valentine's Day can be preserved, senior brother Nai and I will be able to go down in history. Kei Ruling took a brisk step, opened her arms, and excitedly flew towards Nai-chen. Wow, senior brother Nai is so wild. I didn't expect you and junior sister Ruling. The female disciples on the side all showed a hint of shyness, watching Kei Ruling pouting her cherry lips while kissing Nai-chen. Swoosh. Pa. However, she soon saw that Nai-chen threw a punch, sending Kei Ruling flying high like a kite. But Kei Ruling quickly got up after falling to the ground. Not only did she not show any intention of retreating, but her expression became even more excited. I didn't expect that after such a long time, senior brother Nai's boxing skills have improved again. The power of this punch is really great. Senior brother Nai, please accept Linger's love. If the Empress sees the sweet love between us, maybe she will change her mind and no longer prohibit the matter of Taoist couples, and even become interested in love. Hee hee, hee hee. Senior brother Nai, don't run away, is Linger that scary? It's just a kiss, senior brother Nai won't lose a piece of meat. Anyway, Linger knows that senior brother Nai has been secretly in love with me in his heart. Bang. For this punch, Nai Chen had to use the power of the sea-breaking realm, which directly made K. Ruling draw a beautiful arc and fly far over countless buildings. There is no need to worry about K. Ruling's safety, because Nai Chen found that K. Ruling's defense has been maxed out. Especially the face that looks thin on the surface, but in fact it is like a copper wall and iron wall, which cannot be broken at all. However, even though it had already flown into the air, K. Ruling's fanatical voice could be heard from the distant horizon as it drew an arc. Hee hee, senior brother Nai's punch really showed his love for me. Senior brother Nai, you don't have to pretend anymore, Linger will be back soon. Nai Chen sighed a little helplessly. K. Ruling, this girl, I'm afraid she has been narcissistic since she was a child. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 198. You came back a day early and didn't go to see the Empress. Following Nai Chen back to the house, Aolan put her chin on the table and stared curiously at the pen, ink, paper and inkstone in Nai Chen's hand. Don't worry, tomorrow is Valentine's Day, why go so early today? Nai Chen continued to paint the picture in his hand and answered. Well, let me think, it's not that I'm not in a hurry, your trick should be called playing hard to get. Aolan suddenly had an idea in her mind, and her petite body jumped excitedly. How about it, am I right, am I right? Nai Chen. I'm really getting more and more curious about what those old dragons in the Dragon Palace teach you all day long. Nai Chen pressed Aolan down and asked her to be honest. Hey, strange, what are you painting? Aolan then focused all his attention on the painting in Nai Chen's hand. The painting on it was a portrait of Chu Qingyu holding a flute and playing. It was playing the flute in one style, playing the flute in two styles, playing the flute in three styles. In total, there were 5 portraits. Aolan had no idea about the fingering and techniques of the flute, so he focused all his attention on the portrait of Chu Qingyu. Each portrait was vivid and lifelike, not only completely recreating Chu Qingyu's extraordinary beauty with a bit of coldness. More importantly, the 5 paintings were completely different. For example, in the painting of the first syllable gong, Chu Qingyu had a sad look in her eyes and her cheeks were slightly puffed up in anger. In the painting of the 5th syllable yu, Chu Qingyu was smiling like a flower, obviously very lively and cheerful. They actually drew different emotions according to the syllables. Aolan was also shocked, and her little eyes were full of curiosity. What is this? Aolan blinked and asked in confusion. This is a picture of teaching how to play the flute. It just so happens that the Empress wants to learn it. I will give it to her when I have time. Play the flute. Although this flute is not that flute, Aoian's face still blushed slightly. There was no way, after all, Lao Long had taught her too many things. 5 paintings were placed on the table, connected together, and they were natural. Gong, Shang, Xiao, Zheng, Yu. Although there was no sound, each note seemed to appear on the picture. Nai Chen had already integrated his perfect understanding of music into these 5 paintings. As for whether the Empress could learn it, it depended on her ventriloquism. Nai Chen took out the bamboo flute, but when he accidentally brought the bamboo flute close to the scroll, the bamboo flute suddenly reacted. The flute shone with a faint emerald green light, as if it was shining with the 5 paintings. As if in response, the 5 paintings also shone with a faint emerald green light. Strange, there should be nothing unusual about these 5 paintings, what happened? Nai Chen showed a trace of curiosity. But soon he noticed that the strange scene on the bamboo flute seemed to have a slight connection with Chu Qingyu's portrait. In an instant, Nai Chen inexplicably recalled the Dharma image on Chu Qingyu's back. That emerald green bamboo sword. Although he didn't know the specific connection between the two, Nai Chen could always feel a little bit of the same. What is it? Aolan, please help me give these paintings to the Empress first. After instructing Aolan, Nai Chen couldn't help but fall into deep thought. For the sake of Valentine's Day tomorrow, okay. Aolan tiptoed and reluctantly took the 5 paintings from the table, and ran to Tianyun Hall with the paintings. Empress, this is the flute teaching given to you by Nai Chen. Soon, Aolan arrived at Tianyun Hall and handed the painting in his hand to Chu Qingyu. Oh! Chu Qingyu took it from Aolan, looking a little curious. It was true that she had met Nai Chen before, but she didn't expect Nai Chen to remember it so well. And opening a few paintings and looking at the contents of the scrolls, Chu Qingyu's eyes changed slightly in an instant, and she was a little embarrassed. The 5 paintings showed herself wearing clothes of different colors, and her joy, anger, sorrow, and happiness were more different. Every expression was vividly depicted by Nai Chen. Not only was it very realistic, it was also extremely beautiful. The cold temperament that was always invisible was fully displayed, and every detail was depicted, even the outline of some parts. Damn, how carefully does this guy observe me on weekdays? Chu Qingyu clasped her hands in front of her chest, feeling a little shy, but for some reason, she felt a little happy in her heart. Humans who fall in love are really strange. Watching Chu Qingyu's strange changes, Aolan shook his head and couldn't understand. By the way, Queen, aren't you going to look for Nai Chen when he comes back? Aolan suddenly asked. Chu Qingyu shook her head. Don't worry, tomorrow is Valentine's Day, why go so early today? Aolan, you two are really alike, even the tone of your answers is exactly the same. Chu Qingyu. No, I just said that the Empress and Nai Chen look like a couple. Tomorrow is Valentine's Day, the Empress must enjoy it. Aolan quickly covered her mouth. But in his heart, he became more and more determined that these two people are simply a perfect match made in heaven. Thank you, this hiking pill is a ground-level quality pill, which should be beneficial to the practice of the dragon race, you accept it? After putting away the 5 scrolls, Chu Qingyu rubbed Aolan's little head and handed a sea blue pill to Aolan. The sea blue pill exuded a cool breath, like the sea, which made Aolan feel at ease. But looking at Chu Qingyu's slightly gentle eyes, Aolan was a little stunned. At this moment, the Empress made people feel close to her. The Empress is still the same Empress, but after meeting Nai Chen, the Empress has indeed changed a lot. Aolan's eyes flickered, and for some reason, he felt warm in his heart. In the sky, the sun was setting, and the fiery afterglow of the sunset made the Tianyun Palace on the mountain look festive. Many disciples' houses were hung with beautiful pendants, and refreshing and bright flowers were placed at the door. The disciples coming and going couldn't help but smile. This towering Tianyun Palace, which has remained cold for hundreds of years, is awe-inspiring and dared not approach. At this moment, it seems that there is a lot of humanity. Tomorrow is Valentine's Day. Looking at the beautiful sunset, many people are excited. Especially Chu Qingyu, although she is still calm on the surface, her heart is beating faster and faster. It doesn't matter, we will be an old couple sooner or later anyway, there is nothing to be shy about. But Aolan said something inappropriate at this time. As soon as she finished speaking, she realized that she seemed to have said too much today. No, Empress, I don't mean anything else. Don't look at me like that, I'm scared. Seeing Chu Qingyu approaching step by step with a subtle smile on her lips, Aolan was instantly furious. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 199. The next day, Valentine's Day finally arrived. Empress, are you sure Tianyuan Palace can hold some activities related to Valentine's Day today? In the main hall, Elder Wang bowed solemnly. Well, just pretend that this emperor does not exist today, and let those disciples do what they want to do. Chu Qingyu paused slightly and said calmly, however, this situation is only this year. As for whether it will be like this again in the future, it depends on today's situation. Thank you, Empress. Although Chu Qingyu only said this step, Elder Wang bowed down excitedly, with a look of gratitude on his face. Even the old face showed a bit of excitement. Elder Wang no longer cares whether Tianyuan Palace prohibits Taoist monks from doing anything. However, he could clearly see the changes in the Empress. For some reason, everyone in Tianyuan Palace began to slowly realize that the Empress seemed to have quietly changed. Although this change is minimal, it is enough to make everyone's heart surge. Then I will resign. Elder Wang respectfully walked down the hall, but happened to see Nai Chen coming. After saying hello, Elder Wang couldn't help but feel a little doubt in his heart. Everyone has seen the changes in the Empress, but recently, does Nai Chen seem to be too close to the Empress? Why do I always feel that as long as Nai Chen comes back, he will be by the Empress side almost all the time? If the target hadn't been the Empress, I'm afraid some people would have suspected whether Nai Chen had some ulterior secrets with the Empress. However, if you think about it carefully, this kind of thing is absolutely impossible. Elder Wang only thought for a moment, then completely relaxed and walked away. Nai Chen walked into the main hall. There was no one in the hall, and everyone looked at each other, as if there were sparks blooming. But soon, he left in a hurry. Happy Valentine's Day, love. Chu Qingyu glanced at Nai Chen. She was extremely shy and managed to hold back the sentence, but quickly turned her head. Ahem, Happy Valentine's Day, but my wife, it's such a rare Valentine's Day, why don't you even use a title? Nai Chen smiled slightly. Title? What title? My husband. MS sir. How can you be so embarrassed to say this? Chu Qingyu was instantly ashamed and angry and could not bear to resist. Humph, don't think that since you are the Empress, my wife, I can't punish you. I must find a way to listen to today's talk of love. Nai Chen walked forward step by step with a subtle smile. I am a powerful emperor. Is there any way you can punish me? Chu Qingyu didn't believe it. Of course, my unique sanction method is difficult for even the powerful emperor to resist. Wife, if you don't surrender without restraint, don't blame me for taking you to Tianyuan Palace to rub your shoulders. Nai Chen stretched out two sinful palms and showed an evil smile. Pinch your shoulders. Chu Qingyu looked slightly dazed for a moment. After all, Nai Chen's technique has already reached its peak, and no one can resist it. Even the mighty emperor could not remain calm under this wonderful technique. However, Nai Chen's palm was already on Chu Qingyu's shoulder. Facing those soft fragrant shoulders, Nai Chen used an unprecedented shoulder rubbing technique that was unprecedented in history. With a gentle squeeze using a wonderful technique, an irresistible feeling of comfort swept over me. It was as if the fatigue of the whole day had been relieved, and Chu Qingyu couldn't help but squint her eyes at this tide-like feeling of pleasure. That beautiful cheek couldn't help but feel a little relaxed. Even. There is a familiar voice. Moving, turning, twisting, Nai Chen's finger bones gently rotated at the joints, and his technique became more and more exquisite. Empress, this is your last chance. Nai Chen smiled with a hint of threat. This emperor will not give in. Although Chu Qingyu's Taoist mind was firm, she found that she was completely unable to break free from this shoulder-rubbing technique. Seeing this feeling of comfort gradually spreading into her mind, Chu Qingyu finally showed a hint of panic. Today is Valentine's Day, it should have been a chance for me to show off. If he continues like this, His Majesty as an emperor will be lost. Moreover, there are many disciples gathered outside Tianyun Palace at this moment. Wandering around, his eyes may look into the hall at any time. Okay, let's talk about it later. Chu Qingyu's voice was soft, a little subdued. It's shameful to act cute. Wife, don't think you can get away with it. No, today is Valentine's Day, so it must be today. Nai Chen smiled slightly and did not intend to give up easily. How could you let go of such a good opportunity? Damn it, this emperor. If Hangxiu's teeth bite lightly, Chu Qingyu exhales like blue. Seeing that the situation was getting worse, she had no choice but to lower her head slightly, and with a voice as small as a mosquito, she finally reluctantly said those few words. Happy Valentine's Day, Mr. The clear voice no longer had the coldness of the past, and even contained a slight tremor. After saying this, Chu Qingyu instantly blushed and was so embarrassed that she didn't dare to look at Nai Chen. Happy Valentine's Day, wife. However, Nai Chen completely restrained his playful look just now, smiled slightly, and replied softly. On a hot summer day, the breeze blew through the hall, gently lifting Chu Qingyu's hair. The reddish ears were intoxicatingly beautiful. A warm and reassuring breath came, and when Chu Qingyu came to her senses, she found that she had been gently embraced. The soft body curled up slightly, leaning in Nai Chen's arms like a soft cotton candy. This embrace was indeed extremely warm, and nestling in it seemed to make people feel as safe and warm as a nest. For a moment, Chu Qingyu completely ignored the majesty that she should have as an emperor, and just wanted to immerse herself in this embrace. However, after a moment, she raised her head and looked at Nai Chen with a bit of resentment in her eyes. Don't you like meeting on Valentine's Day like this, my wife? Nai Chen smiled slightly, staring at the beautiful cheeks like snow lotus. I like it, but the problem is. Chu Qingyu pouted lightly, with a bit of anger. But, don't tease me like this again. Otherwise, I will. The white jade fingers pinched Nai Chen's waist without much force. Nai Chen shook his head immediately. No, other things may be okay, but this is absolutely impossible. Why? Because my wife, you are so cute that people can't help but want to tease you. Damn it. Chu Qingyu was unwilling to be defeated by Nai Chen again. I am the emperor, why am I always teased so easily? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 200. System, help me find the most suitable place for a date. Searching in a large area. Already exploring the east, west, and south of Lanchuan continent. Searching successfully. Ding, this system recommends a place, Aurora Land. Looking at Chu Qingyu, whose eyes were as charming as autumn water, Nai Chen, who was thinking about the date location, suddenly heard the system's voice in his mind. The Nine Dragons ceremony is indeed very suitable, but finding a good place is also very important. Aurora Land. Not only the Aurora Land, the system also recommended several other suitable places, including Lingshuang Donghan Country, Deep Sea Coral. Although each place is a unique and beautiful scenery. However, the Aurora Land ranks first. Nai Chen roughly scanned several places and quickly determined the Aurora Land. The Aurora Land is located in the northernmost part of Lanchuan continent. The sky there is always flowing with the most brilliant aurora. Especially around Valentine's Day in summer, the aurora there will become extremely brilliant. Colorful light flows in the sky, and even the dust and stars in the universe can be seen in this northernmost position. The only problem is that the environment in the aurora is harsh, and huge monsters often appear. There are almost no human dynasties there. Except for the local residents who master strange magic, travelers who pass by occasionally dare not stay for long. They can only take a quick look at the extremely beautiful aurora and leave in a hurry to avoid encountering powerful monsters. However, this became Nai-Chen's best choice. Huge monsters running rampant? No matter how strong the monster is, can it be stronger than the Empress? Wife, take you to a good place, and go back to Tianyun Palace at night. Nai-Chen gently took Chu Qingyu's hand. Where? Chu Qingyu was slightly curious. You will know when you go there, otherwise, how can it be called a surprise? Nai-Chen smiled slightly. Summon Aolan to fly from a distance, carrying the two of them to the outside of Tianyun Palace. Because Aolan flew away from the back of the palace, no one noticed. But Elder Wang, who had just left Tianyun Palace and looked up at the sky, was stunned. Strange, why is Nai-Chen leaving again? Didn't he just come back yesterday? Wait, that's the Empress. Elder Wang's cloudy old eyes suddenly shrank. The Empress is also riding on Aoian's dragon at this moment, and she is very close to Nai-Chen. Could it be that those two giant pythons are making trouble again? Elder Wang had a trace of doubt in his heart, but suddenly, his mind rang. If it were in the past, even if the Empress and Nai-Chen were sitting on the dragon's body and were close to each other, he would not have any doubts. But the problem is, today is Valentine's Day. The Empress and Nai-Chen went out at the same time on Valentine's Day. Or is it because of those two giant pythons? But is it really such a coincidence? Elder Wang took a step back, looking up at the sky with an unbelievable look in his eyes. He really couldn't believe that the Empress would really have any special relationship with Nai-Chen. But the recent Empress has indeed changed a lot. Even though she still carries the power of the Emperor as before, no one dares to disobey her. But in that cold majesty, the current Empress has a few traces of gentleness that is completely different from the past. Not only did she let go of the female disciple who was secretly in love, but she also allowed this year's Valentine's Day. Does all this really have anything to do with Nai-Chen? For a moment, Elder Wang's old face turned pale in an instant, and his eyes were full of astonishment. If this is really the case, then the strange scene he saw before is not. For a moment, Elder Wang only felt a chill on his back, and his heart was extremely shocked. Human survival comes from inheritance, and the birth of new fire comes from the love of the previous generation. Therefore, in Lanchuan continent, Valentine's Day has a very high status and is also very important. Aolan flew over and saw countless countries on the ground decorated with lights and colors, celebrating Valentine's Day, one of the grandest festivals. However, the life of a mortal is short, and the number of times that can be experienced is only a few dozen times. Gradually heading north, when Aolan flew over the mountains that separated the northernmost part at a very fast speed, the scene in front of him suddenly changed. Behind the mountains, the sky, which was getting darker as it went north, completely turned into a pitch-black color. However, the deep and dark sky was just to set off the beautiful aurora. I saw colorful streams of light flowing in the dark night sky. Red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, purple. Each color seemed to be dragging a colorful tail. The tail formed by this light surged slightly like flowing water, drawing an arc across the sky. And in the night, there was not only the stream of light. The colorful streams of light continued to flow, and when the beautiful aurora fell, new light soon reappeared. Like the bright moonlight, although it shines in the night sky, it does not compete with the sun's light, and appears calm and at ease. So beautiful. Floating to the ground, even Chu Qingyu looked up at the sky, a little absent-minded. She rarely went to other places, so even though she had heard that there was this beautiful aurora in the northernmost part of Lanchuan continent, Chu Qingyu had never seen it. But what is hidden behind the aurora night? Chu Qingyu couldn't help but whispered curiously. Maybe it's the vast starry universe? When the Empress breaks through the cauldron and enters the Calamity Realm, there may be a chance to know. Nai-Chen responded. The Calamity Realm. Chu Qingyu couldn't help but clench her palm slightly. Indeed, she has been in the Cauldron Realm for a long time. However, in the past 1,000 years, no one has broken through to the Calamity Realm. That last barrier, it seems that there is only one, but it is as difficult to cross as an extremely high mountain. Chu Qingyu can clearly feel that although she is not far from the final breakthrough, it is difficult to cross that barrier. But for some reason, with the appearance of Nai Chen, she has not calmed down to practice for a long time. Slowly, she actually felt that the gully that seemed to be impossible to cross before was gradually showing signs of loosening. If I continue like this, maybe one day I can really. Looking up at the dark night sky, Chu Qingyu was a little absent-minded. But as a lavender aurora slid down from the sky, she quickly shook her head. Who cares? No matter what it is, today's date is the most important thing. Let's go. I just want to take a closer look at the Aurora land. Chu Qingyu smiled sweetly and took Nai Chen's arm. Don't worry. I will accompany my wife to see you enough today. Nai Chen also smiled slightly. The two walked towards the depths of the Aurora land. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, MaleProtagonist. Chapter 201. The land of Aurora has not yet reached its depths. In the dim environment, there was a huge crowd of people and vendors selling stalls. Although it is far less crowded than the crowds on the street, it is illuminated by the colorful aurora in the sky. These various brightly lit stalls and the slightly crowded crowd still reveal a somewhat prosperous scene. What a nice view! Not only the scene in front of her, but also looking at the aurora that gradually became clearer, the light in Chu Qingyu's beautiful eyes flickered, as crystal clear as the starry sky. Even the usually cold cheeks had a hint of yearning. This has not yet reached the depths of the Aurora land. If we go deeper, we will definitely see more beautiful scenes. But before that, the brilliant scene of lights in front of us was also very attractive. There was a flow of people walking back and forth, and there were actually many monks mixed in among them. Obviously, they also want to watch the most beautiful aurora during this Valentine's Day. The stunning scenery of the Aurora land will make anyone who sees it unable to help but marvel at it. Let's go inside and have a look. Nai Chen gently held Chu Qingyu's hand. The land of Aurora is far to the north, and the two of them don't even have to worry about hiding their identities. Holding the hand that was as cold as jade and extremely soft, Nai Chen couldn't help but cough lightly, feeling that the Empress was filled with treasures all over her body. Even the feeling of holding hands is definitely not something ordinary women can compare to. Being gently held by the slightly warm hand, Chu Qingyu looked a little shy and lowered her head, not knowing where to look. As expected, that string of brightly lit places was full of prosperous scenery. The long streets are filled with all kinds of dazzling stalls. There are many practitioners wandering around here, buying some souvenirs to take back, or give as gifts to fellow Taoists around them. In front of a stall, Nai Chen stopped in front of the word smoothie written on it. The owner of the stall is a kind old man, especially the smoothies he sells are colorful, and the colors on them are actually filled with a faint spiritual energy. The colors above are the ice reflected in the depths of the Aurora land. The taste is very sweet. Do you want one? The old man advertised what he was selling to the surroundings. Nai Chen glanced at Chu Qingyu, who nodded slightly shyly, seeming to agree. Old man, give me two. Nai Chen stepped forward and put down the price of 10 copper coins on the stall. Hey, that's good. The old man immediately prepared smoothies, but the ones served to Nai Chen and Chu Qingyu were obviously different from those given to the others. The color of the aurora above is not only more intense, but also decorated in a heart shape. Not only that, there is a fragrant petal in each of the two smoothies. Seeing that Nai Chen was slightly confused, the old man immediately smiled and explained. Haha, don't mind, just think of it as an extra gift from me. After all, This is the first time I have seen such a talented and beautiful couple in so many years. Tisk tisk tisk, it really opened my eyes. If you weren't walking on the road, I might have thought that the couple of gods and immortals were here in person. Hearing these words, Nai Chen couldn't help but recall how he felt when he was faced with 2 cups of milk tea for half price and complained about those merchants. Unexpectedly, the beneficiary now is myself. Thank you, shopkeeper. By the way, I have one more thing I can ask you. Nai Chen said. Please tell me. The old man quickly nodded in agreement. Nai Chen, if I show more affection, can I give it half price? Old man. Just kidding. Nai Chen smiled, and his expression finally became a little serious. However, I heard that there seems to be a terrifying giant beast in the Aurora land. When you gather here, aren't you worried about encountering strange beasts? There's no need to worry too much about this. Although we people living here are not good at practicing, we still master some simple earth escape techniques and have secret earth escape talismans passed down from our ancestors. We hardly have to worry about the invasion of strange beasts. As long as you don't encounter particularly powerful beasts, there is basically very little danger. The old man explained. I see, then thank you to the store for clearing up the confusion. I wish you a prosperous business. Nai Chen slightly cupped his hands and had a pretty good impression of the old man. It's nothing, it's nothing. To meet such a couple of gods and immortals like you, this old man is truly blessed before he is laid to rest. The old man waved goodbye with a smile and continued busy with the business at the stall. Picking up the smoothies, Nai Chen and Chu Qingyu continued walking. After tasting the grape-flavored smoothie in his hand, Nai Chen couldn't help but exclaimed. I have to admit that the taste of this smoothie is indeed very unique and delicious, and it is many times stronger than those blended with flavorings. And not only that, if what the old man said is true, the light on this smoothie comes from the aurora in the sky. It has a faint aura and fragrance, which makes people feel immersed in it. But while Nai Chen was thinking, he accidentally turned his head and noticed Chu Qingyu's slightly resentful eyes. Honey, what's wrong? Nai Chen wondered. What do you think? Chu Qingyu licked the strawberry-flavored smoothie in her hand, seemingly hesitant. After a while, he finally said in a low voice. Strawberry tastes delicious, but grape, I haven't tasted it yet. Nai Chen suddenly understood. As expected of an empress, she was too embarrassed to say this in person. Humph, honey, do you just want to try my husband's flavored smoothie? Nai Chen smiled subtly. Seemingly realizing that she was almost tricked, Chu Qingyu blushed slightly and immediately retorted. What do you call your flavored smoothie? It's not. I just wanted to. But at this moment, Nai Chen took advantage of Chu Qingyu's opportunity to retort and suddenly stuffed the grape-flavored smoothie in his hand into her mouth. Without reacting at all, a mouthful of smoothie was instantly eaten by Chu Qingyu. So much smoothie was extremely cold, hard to swallow, and even colder in the mouth. Her teeth seemed to be cold. Chu Qingyu's delicate body trembled twice in an instant, and finally she recovered. But noticing Nai Chen's smile of successful prank, Chu Qingyu immediately reached out her hand and pinched Nai Chen's waist hard. Hiss. Nai Chen was also shivering from the pain, but he still had a bit of a smile. After all, she was the only one in the world who could see the majestic Empress Qingyu being defeated. So cool. Chu Qingyu pursed her lips lightly, and her body shivered. What about the taste? Nai Chen asked with a smile. Smell. Hearing this question, Chu Qingyu turned her head. A voice as thin as a mosquito's fly came, with a hint of shyness that could not be concealed. It smells like you, not bad.